If you're stacking up the AFC right now, where are you putting the Bills?
Let's take a look at
We're
this.
ways out. We're 6 weeks out from training camp. We're still 80-something days from the opener.
Well,
80 or 90. I think we're 90 days.
I think it's in the 80s. Hang on. They send us this every morning.
I think it's between
86 days right now till the season opener.
Hey,
We are
now.
coming up on it. That's less than 3 months away.
We got like a Heinz Ward number of days left.
That's what I
86.
beat me to
Although
it.
you would call that, who said it yesterday, who used weeks? We're 12 weeks away from the
weeks.
the
That was
NFL
me.
season. Yeah, you
I'm
said
10 weeks from my fantasy draft.
So you're saying where would I stack the Bills right now?
Where are you putting in the AFC?
Well, you got to look. You got to look Chiefs first. You got to put them. And then I got to say I couldn't place the Bills any lower than third. To be honest with you,
I think that as you're looking at that,
and I think that's the lowest you should really put them.
because you can argue the Bengals should be in there.
Yeah, I mean you could argue maybe Cincinnati might be above them. So I'd say 2 or 3.
You've got the Chargers, who are.
I mean, we thought they were.
They've got a really good young quarterback. They got a lot of talent. They battled through a ton of injuries last year. I don't think that you can justify putting them above the Bills, but I do think they've got a chance. Look at their draft. Look at the relative health of the team. They added even more wide receivers to that group, the basketball team that they've got in that room. I think they've got an opportunity to be really good. You know, you look elsewhere in the AFC. Did the Jaguars take even another step this year? I don't think you can justify putting them above the Bills yet, but they've got the potential upside to be really good. I think the whole AFC North, where do you put the Ravens? With Lamar now locked in, you gave him Odell, you gave him Zay Flowers, you gave him a new offense. We'll see.
Some healthy running backs, too. Now, as long as those guys, last year, Dobbins got hurt.
Well, and we'll find out what goes on with J.K. He was, according to the local reports, he was there but not practicing today. He's not participated in OTAs. He wants a contract extension. Dude's averaged like 5.8 yards per touch or something per carry in his career. When he's been on the field, he's been unbelievably productive. And given the current running back market, I don't blame anybody for saying I would like to get the money now, not later.
Tom, I had a question that I asked Rich and Chris about maybe a month ago. Is it really crazy to think that maybe all 4 teams in the AFC North will make the playoffs this season?
Well, it's hard just in terms of the numbers because you talk about every wild card spot going to one division. Yeah. But, I mean, you don't really see a weak link. I don't really have a good feel for what the Browns are. But you would hope that they're going to be better with Deshaun Watson. Watson's already said they're going to really evolve the offense this year. They've got, star players. When you go down the list of, Chubb, obviously Myles Garrett, and then you've got some of those other guys like they brought in Zadarius Smith recently. You've got Amari Cooper, who's still a good, solid wide receiver. Yeah. They've got some pieces. Can they put it all together? We saw it 3 years ago when they went to the playoffs, or 2 years ago, with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback. And then obviously there were a lot of circumstances that led to these past 2 seasons being a little bit rocky. And then the Steelers are another team that they're going to be competitive week in and week out. They have added pieces through the course of this offseason. They should be good defensively. Can Kenny Pickett take the next step, and can he overcome the concussion issues? All of which is to say, if you do that, and we haven't even talked about the AFC East, where you got the Jets as well, where you've got the Dolphins who went to the playoffs last year, starting 17 different quarterbacks. I mean, the AFC is absolutely stacked. The quarterbacks in the AFC, just go down the list of the teams, I mentioned. They're mostly in the AFC.
Well, we've talked about this with Rich earlier. I mean, if you look at the quarterbacks just in the AFC, you're talking about Josh Allen, Tua, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson. Okay.
And CJ Stroud just came
5 of those guys aren't going to make the playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
Of that list.
Whereas on the NFC side, you don't
quarterbacks.
run into those same issues on the NFC side of things. I mean, the NFC North, in my mind, is completely wide open.
Yep.
You would think on paper it's really the Lions and the Vikings that are going to be competing.
Yep.
But the Bears made a ton of additions through the offseason. If Jordan Love sets the world on fire here, they're kind of in a transition phase, and I think that Matt LaFleur and company have tempered expectations here. But, Matt's a really good coach. They still do have some weapons. They still have their running backs. We'll see, what they are. Who wins the NFC East? I really don't know. I think it's fairly wide open, but I don't think there's like a single dominant team that you say is running away with the division. The Cowboys are the most talented from top to bottom. The Giants have tried to close that gap, going out and making bold moves.
I don't know.
Bringing in a guy like Darren Waller.
The Cowboys aren't, Tom.
You got the Eagles.
I think that's
obviously
your most talented team in the division.
I mean, the Eagles, if you're looking in terms of, they got a lot of veteran talent. I would agree with you on that. And they've surrounded Jalen Hurts with a ton of talent. So you've got 3 really good teams
and
there.
Look how well they drafted back-to-back years. I mean,
no, I mean they've taken some chances. When you win the way the way they've won, and when culturally you seem to be building what they're building, you could take some of those guys that other teams are going to be skittish about. When Jalen Carter is sitting there, and some of the other teams are going, it's just it's too much of a risk that high. The Eagles are willing to trade up a spot and go get him at number 9 because they go, we're going to bring him into our building, and it's going to work in our building.
To play with all of his college teammates.
Right. And all those guys, I mean, a lot of those guys had various things that made people nervous about them going into the process, whether it was medical, whether it was character. And they did the same thing last year and took some chances. And by and large, those chances have worked out. You can afford to do that when you have done what Howie Roseman has done, which is an unbelievable. He's built 2 Super Bowl caliber teams in a span of 6 years that are very different from one another. Completely different quarterback, a lot of different core pieces, totally different skill group, basically. And then, defensively, you got guys like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham that have been there a long time, but everybody around them is different. Different coaching staff. I mean, the whole thing is different. The only constants, it really is, Howie Roseman. So, and I didn't mean that as when I said Dallas, I didn't mean that as a slight toward the Eagles. You probably put the Eagles up there, but how many other teams in the entire NFC, the 49ers probably have to be in there, maybe the Seahawks, but how many of those teams are you putting above the handful of teams we just named in the AFC? I mean, this is the fun of it. We're sitting here on June 13th going through this, and a lot of different things can change, and injuries happen, and you learn who rookie players are, but you certainly look at the AFC right now and say Aaron Rodgers is joining a really tough group.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.